We are live. Hello, everyone. Namaste. A very warm good evening to all the history enthusiast followers. So, today we have V and Prabhakar with us on the platform of the history enthusiasts. I take this opportunity to warmly welcome Professor V and Prabhakar, sir, and our honorary president, Shri Nandan Shastri ji, and also all the audience who are joining us through this live session. So it's an honor to have VN Prabhakar sir on this platform and a privilege to introduce him today. VN Prabhakar is Associate Professor of Archaeology at the Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar, since September 2020. He specializes in Protohistoric Archaeology of India with a special focus on Harappan culture, field archaeology, heritage management, and the application of sciences in archaeology. He is the Archaeological Sciences Center coordinator at IIT Gandhinagar, fostering the application of sciences in archaeology, formerly director of exploration and excavation at Institute of Archaeology at the Archaeological Survey of India between August 2018 to September 2020. He coordinated the exploration and excavation activities through the country and headed the Institute of Archaeology and academic wing of the ASI, imparting education in archaeology, heritage management, and museology. He excavated Rupnagar, Punjab, and Karanpur, Rajasthan, both of Harappan culture between 2011 and 2014. From 2009 to 2011, he was the head of Aurangabad Circle and Aurangabad Circle of ASI and responsible for the exploration and excavation, conservation, and preservation of 166 nationally essential heritage structures, including the World Heritage Properties of Ajanta and Ellora Caves. He obtained Doctor of Philosophy in 2013 degree from Kurukshetra University, India, on the burial practices of the Harappans with special reference to Sinoli excavation. He has published over 40 research articles in multiple journals, edited books, and national international conference proceedings. So it's a great privilege to have Professor Prabhakar today with us. He's going to talk on the topic recent researches on the Harappan trade network and long distance connectivity. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation. Now the stage is to you. You can start your session.
Sorry, I mean I was muted, so I was.
No problem, sir.
Yeah. I hope the screen is visible now.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
So, thank you so much for the nice introduction, and thank you for the Histories Enthusiast Association for inviting me to talk on this occasion. And first of all, I would like to acknowledge my institution, IIT Gandhinagar, my parent organization, Archaeological Survey of India, my guru mentor, Professor R.S. Bisht, and the History Enthusiast Association, and all scholars who have contributed enormously for better understanding of the Harappan civilization. As we all know, we are in the 100th year of, or we have completed 100 years of the announcement of the discovery of the Indus Valley Civilization. Now it is known variously as Harappan Civilization. I prefer personally as Harappan Civilization because of the type site from where the first excavation started, and because the sites are spread over not only on the Indus region but also into various parts of the greatest Indus region in Gujarat, in Afghanistan, in Makran coast. So it is better to have a middle path, and I would prefer to name it as the Harappan civilization. But we do have different nomenclatures, including Indus civilization, Indus Valley civilization, Sindhu Saraswati civilization, or Saraswati civilization. We do have different nomenclatures. Looking back into the discovery, I mean, it was in on September 20th, 1924, John Marshall of Archaeological Survey of India, he announced the discovery of this civilization. I mean, we recently celebrated this occasion, this announcement of discovery on the September 20th. IIT Gandhinagar also made a very small effort of remembering this momentous discovery, even though a few people think that it is not the right occasion. I don't know, I mean, people were raising questions about how September 20th, 1924 can be the announcement of the discovery, even though the investigation started much earlier. Even though the investigation started much earlier, then we have to go back to 1826 or 1832, when Charles Mason and Alexander Burners, they visited Harappa. Then there is no meaning altogether. I mean, the main important feature is how did we kind of understood there was a civilization existed, particularly connecting Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. I mean, they had similarities, and that was initially felt when both the sites were excavated. Harappa initially, then later on Mohenjo-daro excavated in 1922, and only in 1923 both these materials were compared and contrasted, and they could understand, the leading archaeologists at that particular point of time of the ASA, they understood that they belong to the same culture. But the announcement took further time, and it was ultimately in September 20th, 1924. So we need to clearly understand that the date of any civilization or its discovery starts from the time of its announcement. I mean, it is not when it was conceived. I mean, at the time of conceivement, at the time of starting the excavations, there was no such thing as Harappan civilization. So people who raise questions, they should have also celebrated in 2021 itself, if they have some objection. Anyways, I mean, this is a pity thing that people try to ignore one of the momentous discoveries of our Indian subcontinent, which encompasses a huge area covering nearly 1 million square kilometers. So it was September 20th, 1924. John Marshall announced. Within 1 week, Professor A.H. Sass, he noticed the similarities between the Harappan seals in a datable context from Susa, and he immediately announced that on September 20th, 1924, in the same journal, Illustrated London News. And later on October 4, C.J. Gadd and Sidney Smith announced some similarities with the Harappan and the Babylonian civilization. And later on, they published one more article on October 14th, 1924, in which they pointed similarities between the seals found in Ur and Kish. So the story when goes on, I mean, the discovery initiated a lot of further research. I mean, we need to understand that. I mean, bringing the importance of a civilization to the public's attention, it creates a lot of further research, and that's how the research is still continuing, and we are continuing the research for over 100 years, and we have found out several important aspects of the civilization. If we look into the picture in 1947, when India got independence, I mean, we lost all the sites except Rangpur in Gujarat and Kotla Nihangkan. There is one more site here near Rupnagar, Kotla Nihangkan. All the other site went to Pakistan, but because of the efforts of various universities, Archaeological Survey of India, state departments of archaeology, we do have a better understanding now, and we know that the sites are spread over a vast area and the greater Indus region. Greater Indus region means I include, or all the scholars, they include the major tributaries of the river Indus. Along with the river Indus, then we have the Gagara Akra river system, which is identified with the river Saraswati, and also the sites in Gujarat. I mean, if we see, we have a large number of sites in Gujarat, particularly in the Kutch region, some of the sites on the Makran coast, and also a few sites in the Shotogai, near Shotogai region. So this is the overall picture of prolonged efforts of various scholars who worked tirelessly to bring out more and more archaeological evidence. We do understand the settlement hierarchy in a better manner now, we do know there were six larger cities, including the recent identification of a large settlement known as Lakhanjadaro near Sakkar, and along with Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Rakigadi, Dholavira, and Ganveriwala. And these six large settlements, they might have been very important in terms of administration and also coordination between various regional centers, like larger towns and smaller towns, and also there were many smaller villages and hamlets. This is the settlement hierarchy. And if we look into the size of the settlements, of course, Mohenjo-daro is the largest among all the sites, followed by Harappa, then Rakigadi, or even Lakhanjadaro. Some claim that Lakhanjadaro is equally large in terms of Mohenjo-daro. So Mohenjo-daro and Lakhanjadaro together, they are the largest sites, followed by Harappa, then Rakigadi, then Ganveriwala, and finally Dholavira. Dholavira is located in the Indian subcontinent. So if we look into the overall location of these larger cities and the smaller towns and the larger towns, there seems to be a kind of a regional administrative pattern. Professor Mark Canoyer observes that this is a kind of a city-state kind of formation, very similar to the Mesopotamian civilization, in which the cities, the major cities, ruled a large hinterland around 160,000 to 170,000 square kilometers. But overall, they were united in terms of a single culture or a civilization, maybe for various purposes, including economic ties. If we look and contrast the different civilization of the contemporary time, the Harappan civilization can be compared with the Mesopotamian and the Egyptian ones. All the red ones indicate the urban phase. I mean, all these civilizations, they had a common trajectory. They started with the food gathering communities or food producing communities. They were settling in villages and towns. Gradually, they were inventing so many technologies. And if we look into the early food producing era represented by the Neolithic age in the South Asian context, from Mehergad, we have a very long and continuous evidence in which we pass on several stages of cultural evolution. Starting from the Neolithic, we advance into the ceramic production. Initially, it was aceramic Neolithic, then ceramic Neolithic started. Then they invented copper. Then the copper age starts. The population increases. Domestication of plants and animals comes into being, and also there was a continuous social hierarchical system which was also developing. So we see evidence of long distance trade, emergence of technology. All of them starts here in the Mehergad, and it is a wonderful evidence that we get here. And slowly around the end of 5th millennium, beginning of 4th millennium, we see the emergence of regional Chalcolithic cultures in different parts of the South Asia, western part of South Asia, where in Gujarat, in Sindh, in Cholistan, in Punjab, in eastern Punjab, we see a lot of regional Chalcolithic cultures emerge, which ultimately converge together into the Harappan culture. Or it integrates all of these regional cultures. They integrate into the Harappan culture around 2600 BCE, and it continued for 700 years. And around 1900 BCE, this urban fabric, it somehow lost, and maybe due to different reasons. Scholars give various reasons for this, including climatic changes, for which more and more evidences are coming from different parts of the South Asia, where it clearly indicates that around 4200 years back, there was certain climatic changes which triggered a long-term drought-like conditions, and ultimately that could have triggered a series of changes, and ultimately the Harappans, they lost their urban fabric, and they converted again into the regional culture. So that we call it as the late Harappan. So this is the long history and long evolution of the progress of the humankind into a settled human life and to the advancement into urban civilization. So we see that we are contemporary with the four major civilizations, and also with the Levant region. So combined together, we shared many things with the Mesopotamians. We traded with the Mesopotamians. The long distance trade was a very important mechanism during the Harappan times, and that also started much earlier. So if we look into the long distance trade, it was necessitated through various reasons for satisfying the needs of the elites. So this is a scenario where the satellite and remote sensing technologies, they help a lot in understanding the last rivers. I mean, there were these techniques were applied largely from the 1970s and 80s onwards, through which we got to know that there's a clear evidence of a very long and continuous river emerging from the Himalayas and also entering into the Run of Kutch. This river was investigated in the 19th century itself by C.F. Oldham and R.D. Oldham, and they clearly pinpoint that this is the Saraswati, which was located between Yamuna and the Satluj river systems, and also they identified several channels of river Satluj breaking away from this river and ultimately joining the river Bias. So it's a very dynamic region. It is inviting a lot of attentions from various scholars who are still working on that, arriving at a chronology. There are contrasting views. One set of scholars like Ajit Singh et al., they argue that the river Saraswati in its present, it seized into a very massive river around 8,000 years back, and it did not reach the level of a massive river after that. That is around 6,000 BCE. But another thing is that if the river ceased to be massive and it could not support cultures, then how come these Harappan sites are found on this river system? It is very difficult to understand. I mean, somewhere there should be a convergence between the scientists and the archaeologists. If the archaeologists say and they define a chronology of an advanced urban civilization starting from around 2600 to 1900 BCE, and if the geologists say there was no river at that particular point of time, then it is a kind of an intriguing situation. This needs to be addressed. Maybe future research will throw much light on this. So we have seen the settlement hierarchy earlier, and this is how it is defined. I mean, cities more than 100 hectares in size, that could be placed in the category of cities, particularly in the Harappan context, because if you go to Mesopotamians and the Egyptian context, there the cities are much larger. I mean, 500 hectares, 600 hectares. So we do have a regional classification, and this is how they are defined, and we do have a better chronology now. We do understand the phase before the Harappans, that is the urban phase, that is in the 4th millennium BC to 2600 BC. Urban phase is from 2600 to 1900 BCE, and after that we have the late Harappan phase from 1900 BCE onwards. So how did the urbanism started? I mean, our urbanism, the state level society. I mean, many archaeologists and anthropologists, they define this ancient civilization as examples of state level societies, and they define certain preconditions, starting from Sir Gordon Child in the 1950s and 1957, who wrote a series of articles. He tried to define the basic criteria for understanding what is urbanism, what is cities, and how much it is different from the other settlements. Later on, it was refined by several other scholars, and Professor Mark Enoyer, he shortlists them into 4 major criteria which should be fulfilled so that we can call any society as a state level society. So that includes subsistence economy, which supported with agro-pastoral lifestyle, which produces a surplus. Surplus is food production is very important. Then social and economic land networks between raw material resources and major habitational zones. For example, in the greatest Indus region, they are all plain alluvial region, right? I mean, there is no raw material. So whatever raw materials, they have to come from all around the greatest Indus region. So a better management of resources is necessary. That's why the regional Chalcolithic cultures, they came together and to share the raw materials in a better manner. For example, agate carnelian, which was used to make this kind of beautiful stone beaded waistbands, they came from Gujarat alone, right? I mean, from Gujarat they were procured, they were managed to be distributed to Sindh, to Punjab, to eastern parts of the Harappan domain. So that's how the convergence, the integration of Harappan civilization helped in the better sharing of raw material resources. The third one is complex technologies, whereas complex technologies, they largely cater to the elites in a particular society. For example, the stoneware bangle technology, it is very complex, even though it can be manufactured from a locally available clay. It is very complex, and it is very difficult to reproduce them. Even today, it could not be reproduced. So these were produced in very small numbers, only for the elites. And finally, social hierarchy. The social hierarchy, it enables a better control of the society, better control of the raw material resources, and also the distribution network. So this can be identified through various means, like for example, if you look into the habitation, there would be differential construction of houses, larger houses to medium houses to smaller houses. Then the embellishments in the houses, in the burials, if we see differential interment of burial goods. So all these things help in the understanding of the social hierarchy. So all these criteria, they better define the state level societies. And in particular, if we look into the trade networks and the regional distribution networks, we see a beautiful work done by Randall, who did his PhD to understand the entire procurement and distribution network of raw materials from the site of Harappa. So it clearly proved that raw materials came from different zones. I mean, this Indus Plains is devoid of any stone, and all the raw materials, they are coming from the surrounding hills and mountains and Gujarat region. It included the mundane grinding stones which were used to grind the grains for producing the flour, to producing some of the sophisticated ornaments like this Vesuvanite stone beads, or the moss agate stone beads, and also the shell bangles. So it was a system which was created much long back. I mean, not the Harappans created this. It goes back to the Neolithic times of the Mehergad. Mehergad is a very important site from where we get evidence of exotic goods which were not available locally. For example, shell coming from Karachi coast, another shell variety coming from Makran coast, and the mother of pearl coming from Oman coast. It reaches, it travels greater distance from 600 kilometers to 1200, 1500 kilometers. Similarly, exotic raw materials like turquoise coming from Central Asia, lapis lazuli coming from Afghanistan, traveling around 1200, 1500 kilometers. So imagine nearly 8000 years back or 7000 years back, how did these people manage to kind of get into contact with the distant resources, and ultimately they were procuring them. It means the longer the distance any raw material travels or any finished product travels, the greater the economic value. It clearly indicates the social hierarchy existed at that particular point of time. People were established elites at that particular point of time. They were able to procure goods, and they were also demonstrating their ability to do that. And how they could have done that? I mean, we have certain evidences earlier that maybe there were communities on the Karachi coast and other regions. They could have supplied this kind of raw materials. And from 2002-3 onwards, Paulo Biaggi on the Pakistan side, he brought to light a lot of shell midden sites. Shell middens are sites where shells are consumed, the meat from the shells are consumed and discarded in larger numbers over a period of time, and it accumulates in volumes like this one. This is one evidence of a shell midden site. So he discovered on the Pakistan side, it dated from 8th millennium to 5th millennium BP. And very recently, starting from 2022 onwards, we have started to discover a large number of shell midden sites on the Khadir Island, Bela Island, and also on the Kutch mainland. So we are slowly expanding to other parts of the Kutch region. But what is this evidence clearly indicating is that people were living much before the Harappans along these shell resources, particularly these shell resource areas. They were providing the Turbinella pyram. So this could be the answer. I mean, we were really wondering how the Mehergad people got the Turbinella pyram, which is only occurring from this region. So communities living along the peripheral regions of the coastal areas, they might have procured these raw materials, and also they could have supplied to the inland city. So this picture is slowly emerging, and this is one of the sites which we where we identified the shell middens. It is nearly 30 centimeters in thickness. We dated this, and it dates from around 5500 BCE to around 4800 BCE. So much before the Dholavira people. This is very close to Dholavira. We discovered it from here, Bamanka, and Dholavira is located here. So much before the Dholavira was actually occupied, people were living there, exploiting the local marine resources. So then we come briefly to Dholavira. You can see this is the location of Dholavira on the Khadir Island, and this is how we can see how it was located between two streams, Mansar and Manhar, Mansar on the north and Manhar on the south. So the Harappans, they located much before the Harappans. We have an early settlement here. They located the settlement between these two streams in such a manner that they established a very small fortified unit, which was later expanded to the northern side, which had parallels with the Sindh region, because the ceramics what we find in this age, we see parallels with the Sindh region. And slowly the city expanded, and we see the arrival of the Harappans towards the end of early Harappan, maybe around 2650 2500 BCE, and the full configuration of the city emerges with the full arrival of the Harappans. All Harappan elements comes into picture here. So the town planning is very unique, and after the end of the Harappans, again the city it restricts us to the southern half, where we see elements of ceramics arriving from the southwestern Rajasthan part. So we see a amalgamation of various cultures coming and going of different sets of populations, or maybe different influences. I won't say population, different influences, and the people here, they were adapting to various climatic changes also during the course of time. We see extraordinary planning at Dholavira as described by its excavator Dr. R.S. Bisht. So we have very good ratios and proportions if we compare the lengths and breadths. And Michel Danino, who is working on the another metrical system of the Harappans, he devises a Dholavira unit of 1.9 meter, and all the other units are multiples of 1.9 meter. And again, that 1.9 meter Dhanush unit, it's again 108 times of the Angulum system of the ancient metrical system. So there is a deep connection between the ancient metrical system that can be traced back to the Harappan times, and we see multiple evidences of how these ratios and proportions were maintained by the Harappans. They also built extraordinary structures. They built enormous fortification gateways, and also well secured interiors. For example, at Dholavira, this castle, it is well secured. I mean, this fortification is around 18 meters in width, and when compared to the much thinner fortification here, it's hardly 4 meters in thickness. So somebody very important is living inside, or very socially very important person who wants to display his power and strength, and showing to the entire city that look how I am powerful. That's why he or she, they are constructing such massive fortification with gateways, elaborate mechanisms of entry checks and measures. And we did a recent analysis of how this north gate has several checks and measures. I mean, we found out that there is an entry level here, first entry to the east gate of the ceremonial ground, and from here one can enter. This is the first level, and also there is an entry here. So three first level entries, but among the first level entrance, nobody can pass here unless until they are invited or they are special important people. So there is a second level entry here, then another third level, then within the gate complex there is a fourth level, and finally there is a fifth level. So these are the indicators of social hierarchy. People living inside this castle, they were really very important people, socially elite, and they were controlling very important resources, and that's how they were residing inside, and using such massive gateways, and also elaborate security arrangements. Another very important thing is that the so-called priest king, which was found at Mohenjo-daro, is half broken, and the lower part is reconstructed later on, and very similar another stone sculpture from Mohenjo-daro. But interestingly, the similar pose, similar attitude of a seated person, stone sculpture, it is found from other places. Recently, Massimo Vidale, he has published an article of how from Sharai Shokta also we do have a similar postured person, right? I mean, it is very similar, looking to the head ornament and the seated posture. All of them, they are very very similar. Even at Dholavira, we have a broken stone sculpture with the same posture. So all of these clearly indicate that there used to be a particularly ideologically united maybe group of elites who have a common system of iconographical features, who are displaying their elites in such a manner. This could be portraits of very important rulers, who knows, but it has to be established in a better context. So looking into the architecture, very elaborate at Dholavira, particularly the castle, because important people were living there, and this kind of stone pillar elements, they are found only at Dholavira, Harappan, Mohenjo-daro, and elaborate burials which are very unique to Dholavira. and have parallels with the royal burials of Bahrain. These are the royal burials of Bahrain, and we have the same sort of burials. I mean, it is really intriguing how widely separated regions have a similar sort of a burial systems. So again, more and more investigations may help a lot in understanding. And Gujarat played a very important role in the trade networking and also raw material procurement and distribution system, because it was home to the most important raw material, that is the agate cornelian, which was used to produce various kind of ornaments. This is the waistband, and also the this kind of a decorated cornelian beads, and also this kind of stone pillar elements. And all the red triangles, they indicate the agate cornelian resources which the Dholavira Harappans might have used. And scientific investigations clearly indicate that the stone pillar elements, they were quarried near Dholavira. They were semi-finished near the quarry site, taken back to the site where they might have been put on a lathe and turned and smoothened and polished, and then ultimately it was exported to Mohenjo-daro as well as Harappa. So this is a very important piece of evidence of how in those times they were able to move such heavier stone pillar elements, maybe weighing around 300-400 kilograms, mounted on boats, navigated through the run of Kutch, and navigated upstream through the Indus and reaching ultimately Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. So this is a fascinating story to clearly understand. They also traded with West Asia. We do have a lot of evidence now. Scholars have been working in different parts of West Asia, Iran, Central Asia, Helmand region. All of this clearly indicates how the Harappan spread far and wide. We do have from this Mesopotamian civilization starting from around early dynastic third period, that is 2500 BCE onwards, we do find a continuous record of around 700-800 years how the Harappans traded with the Mesopotamians. So we do have nearly 76 citations from this period. They mention about Upper Sea and the Lower Sea. Upper Sea for them was Mediterranean, Lower Sea was Persian Gulf, and they also mentioned three different regions: Dilman, Magan, and Meluha. So Dilman is identified with Bahrain and its surrounding regions, Magan with Oman and its surrounding regions, and Meluha is ultimately the Harappan civilization. So they also mention about the products coming from the Meluhan region that include agate cornelian, various types of timbers. They mention about ships of Meluha, furnitures made of Meluha, different timber types coming from Meluha, Mesu wood, they say Gisabba, Meluha. There are various types of mentions, which mention of names, mention of products which are very much peculiar to the Harappan civilization alone. So this clearly indicates that Harappans were very important trade partners with the Mesopotamians, and these are the evidences from the Mesopotamian region where we find this long barrel red colored beads which were exported by the Harappans, and ultimately they were reaching the cemeteries. These are from the cemeteries from Mesopotamia, from the site of Ur, and these two are from an inland city known as Mari. So that is 500 kilometers away from Ur. So commodities reaching the coastal towns of Mesopotamia, they were again retraded and they are reaching the interior towns and cities. We also find even the presence of ceramics in sites in Oman. Like these are the ceramics from Salud, a site in Oman, which were produced from the local clay, but typically Harappan, the perforated jars and this kind of cooking vessels. These kind of cooking vessels, they are very much unique to the Harappans. So Harappans, they were traveling to Oman, from Oman to Bahrain, and Bahrain to Mesopotamia. They might have been staying there. They might have been inhabited these locations. They might have been trading extensively with the interiors also, and that's how we see Harappan culinary practices also used there, and they were able to produce their own set of cooking vessels in the Oman region. We also find these kind of round seals. They are very much different from the square-shaped seals of the Harappans, right? This is a round seal with a bison motif, very typical of the Harappans and the Harappan inscriptions. So these type of seals, they are commonly found in the Bahrain region, and very few are found from the Harappan region. Can you see the screen? Very few from the Harappan side, like this is from Dholavira and this is from Channudoda and Mohenjo-daro. Very few from these Harappan side. So this is how we see a separate set of round shaped seals, which were prevalent from around 2200 2150 BCE onwards in the Bahrain region, and maybe specially catering towards different set of Harappan traders and merchants who were trading with the Mesopotamian region. We have more examples, and we also have on these seals these kind of patterns, which was studied by various scholars and identifying as two humans standing side by side, and which clearly is a pattern emerging from the Bahrain region also. So this is another intriguing aspect, which needs to be answered. Maybe they are catering to a different language group in Bahrain, and that's why they are using a different sign sequence also. Interestingly, there are certain seals from the Mesopotamian context which has a Harappan square shape and a bison, and a water buffalo. Sorry, not a bison, water buffalo, but a cuneiform inscription. So this is really very interesting, and this could be the key maybe for future decipherments. I mean, there are Harappans living there, maybe generations of the Harappans living there who have adopted the local writing style, yet they have not discarded their own pattern of creating a square shaped seal with the water buffalo, but writing in the local script. So more evidences are there, more copper tablets are there indicating the Harappans or representative of the Harappans were there, or localities of the Harappans, or maybe houses of the Harappans were there, who are also transacting there, who are employing servants there. Like a man of Meluha, he pays 10 shekels of silver to a servant because he broke his tooth. So these are all very interesting evidences that the Harappans not only ventured to trade within their overall Harappan domain, they were also trading outside and reaching very far away distances also. So this is another Harappan seal from Oman. Again, a water buffalo with a feeding tray in front of that with a Harappan script. All of these are clear indications, and we do have a lot of evidences of Harappan presence in the Mesopotamian region. So coming to the recent investigations, what we have been working on. I mean, we have recently published two articles. I, along with my colleague Ekta Gupta, we have investigated Lothal in the perspective of regional trade networks, and try to understand with the aid of GIS and remote sensing techniques how an inland water network could have existed during the Harappan times. So coming to Lothal, it's well known. It is located in the southern part of the Harappan domain. It was discovered and excavated by S.R. Rao, and who also identified a dockyard there, but which was criticized by many different sets of scholars. But ultimately, what we are trying to find is that, I mean, it is clearly a dockyard because of various evidences. There are clear-cut evidences that the drainage of the city, it is let into the dockyard. Had it been an irrigation tank as proposed by Leshnik, then why should the Harappans let the drainage into the dockyard? I mean, Leshnik also compares Lothal with the Sumerian cities, and he says that there is no shops on the dockyard, so that's why it cannot be a dockyard. So I mean, a lot of comparisons without any valid reasons, but ultimately one needs to understand the context, and also the kind of architectural feature what it is there, and also the substantial evidences indicated by the long distance trade, like the copper ingots and the Persian Gulf type seals. All this clearly indicate that it could have been one of the important commercial trade centers at that particular point of time. The location of Lothal is very, very important, and if you see here, I mean, it is at the high tide zone of the Gulf of Kambat, and it is connecting a corridor with the Little Run of Kutch with the Gulf of Kambat. So if we see, there are various previous studies identifying certain paleochannels here, particularly Katkikar, who identified a paleochannel of Bogawa River. Bogawa River, actually now it emanates from the Nal over here, and also identification of intertidal deposits north 100 meters north of Lothal. So the tidal zones, it was extending much interior. How it could have been possible? It came from our investigation. So this is the Bogawa paleochannel of the Bogawa River. Katkikar investigated up to a certain point, and beyond that he could not do that. And this is the Bogawa River. He identified Lothal is located here, and ultimately it joins the Gulf of Kambat, and Sabarmati is flowing from where here. And there were large number of paleochannels here also. This has to be kept in mind. So Nal Sarovar was also investigated. Nal Sarovar is a huge inland water reservoir, and the deep course, it clearly indicated that it was basically a lacustrine. That is the top levels. It clearly indicates a lacustrine. It's a lake deposit, and the bottom mid 3 to 18 meter indicate it's a fluvial. It means a lot of rivers were draining into that, and below 18 meter it was a marine. It means at one point of time, maybe 65,000 years back, the entire Saurashtra was an island, and it could be a huge corridor connecting the Little Run with the Gulf of Kambar. So this is how we look into that, and even today the height tide of Gulf of Kambar, it can reach up to 11 meters. I mean that is how we see. So the lot of evidences clearly indicate that there was a connectivity between here, which was later abandoned due to various climatic reasons. There could be the inland, the coastline could have been completely different. What we see from now, this could have been completely different. So the simulation studies also clearly indicate that if the sea level was nearly 8 meters higher, so if you look at the sea level, if 8 meters higher, there are considerable water bodies all around, and the entire Kutch region, it is converted into an island along with 4 other islands. So if we visualize the Dholavira and along with the Gujarat part, maybe in some remote period, maybe 65,000 years back, this could be the situation, right? Now it is connected with a shallow water network, but around 65,000 years back, it was completely connected with the sea. But this one prevailed even during the Harappan times. The entire Kutch was an island with 4 or 5 major islands on the northern part. Nagar Parkar is still north. Even the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea 2000 years back, he mentions about 7 islands of the Kutch region. And there was a lot of connectivity, and that. So this could be the scenario during the Harappan times, which is proved from our study also. There could be a riverine route as well as a sea route connecting the major raw material resources on the southern part of Gujarat through the Gulf of Khambat. And we can see the paleo coastline very clearly delineated from our JS and remote sensing studies. All the sites, known sites, are located beyond this point only. This could be the ancient shoreline, and these are the intertidal zones, and that's so there are no sites in this part, and Lothal is located at this location. And through the remote sensing studies, we also came to know that the Bogo river, which was identified with this course, it's actually the Sabarmati, and it was flowing once all along and flowing close to the Lothal, which slowly shifted, and ultimately it reached the present day course. This is the present day course of Sabarmati, and Bogovo river is here. This is the Bogovo river. So it can be clearly understood that when Lothal was flourishing, Sabarmati could have flowed along this river. So these are the findings of the recent research. Along with that, the Sabarmati paleo channel, we also investigated this part, which is an inland water network connecting Lothal and the Little Run of Kutch. Because from here the raw materials are coming, and they are being processed here, and from here they were transported through boats through interconnected shallow water systems, and ultimately they were reaching the greater run of Kutch. So looking closely into different parts, the northern part of the Nal Sarovar and the southern part of Nal Sarovar, it was clearly understood that the water network can be very easily reconstructed because of such water networks even today. If we look closely into different segments of the northern part, there are indeed water channels available even today, which supports boat network, and in certain segments even today people use the flat bottom boats to travel from one place to another. So this is a clear cut possibility that local people communicated through this river network, through the Nal Sarovar, and a series of smaller networks, and reaching into the Little Run of Kutch. Similarly, in the southern part also, there are a series of water networks which are navigable when there is a good monsoon season, and these are some of the evidences. So all of this clearly indicate that the interconnected water bodies connected Lothal with the Little Run of Kutch and further beyond, enabling a travel time of around 12 hours. right? I mean, if one travels continuously from here to here, that is 90 kilometers. So it takes 12 hours. So looking into the overall evidence, what we have gathered so far, the Lothal was clearly connected with the little run of Kutch, and large quantum of goods might have been transported in this region. So imagine the distance between Lothal and Dholavira. I mean, through this network, it is only 300 kilometers, but one has to travel all along the Saurashtra coast and reach Dholavira, that is 980 kilometers. So it is nearly 1,000 kilometers through this route. It is hardly 300 kilometers. So it would have taken hardly 2 days, 2 days or 3 days, hardly, through this network. And here it is a very torturous route, the tidal and very difficult to navigate the Saurashtra coast. So Harappans might have avoided, and they might have used this network to procure the raw materials, to transport them to Lothal, from Lothal to Little Run of Kutch, to various settlements in Shikarpur, Bhagasra, Nagwada, Kanmer, Surkotoda, and ultimately to Dholavira, and from Dholavira to various different sources. So this is the evidence what we get from the recent investigations, and from here, from Dholavira to one way is to through the Indus to the to Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, to the river Saraswati, to other settlements on the Saraswati, and the finished product, they went westwards to the Mesopotamian. So this was the scenario in Gujarat at a particular point of time. And Lothal, we do find lot of evidence, and also due to the investigations by Dennis Frennes of the Lothal Revisitation Survey, he did lot of magnetic surveys and resistivity surveys, which clearly indicated a channel connecting the river with the dockyard. So this is really crucial, and his investigations could not be carried forward. And maybe following his example, some other people may excavate. They may find out. I mean, this was his discovery. I mean, Dennis Furness, he did this investigations. He also did some preliminary investigation, but he was not allowed to carry forward. But maybe somebody copies his work and do some work, they can find more evidence. So there are evidences in Lothal. There are still more evidences which has to be uncovered, interconnecting channels of the dockyard with the river, and how this entire mechanism might have worked in the local scenario. So there are many more answers still to be answered, but with this kind of evidences, one can clearly carry forward. And since we have clearly demonstrated how the regional water network might have functioned, and ultimately Lothal becomes very prominent, and it was clearly a dockyard. It was not an irrigation tank. One needs to clearly understand the irrigation agricultural activities of the Indians there. I mean, there is no need for this kind of water reservoirs in this location, because this entire region is submerged under a sheet of monsoon water for nearly 3 to 4 months, which transports enormous quantities of silts, which makes the soil fertile, and there is no need for anybody to kind of carry out the irrigation. And more importantly, nobody will allow their drainage into a cleaner irrigation tank. So these are some evidences clearly indicating the importance of the Lothal dockyard. So that's all from my side. I mean, if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really very informative lecture. So we have some questions in the chat box. With your permission, should I take them?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay. Uh, there is a question by Manali Mumaya. So asking for a better understanding of the volume of trade at Lothal during the Harappan times, can we compare it in size and function to any modern port of India? That is the question.
You see, the importance of Lothal is very much, right? I mean, we cannot compare the volume to the modern day port towns of India, but the importance of Lothal in that particular age is really important. So, because it is closer to the raw material resources, far away from the Harappan urban zone, so the importance was much more. But we cannot definitely compare it with the modern context. I think you are muted.
Yes. We have a lot of appreciatory comments. Rakit Mohan, Arun Malik, Sushila B, all of them have appreciated the lecture in the comment section. Nandan sir, do you have any question to add?
Uh, no, no, not right now. But
Okay.
tomorrow I will definitely ask.
Okay. Sir, I want to know that what are your suggestions for the history enthusiasts and how can we contribute in spreading more awareness about the Harappan archaeology or Harappan civilization among the general public, not the history and archaeology students, but among the general public.
Yeah, I mean, there can be a series of lectures. I mean, there are various scholars who have worked extensively. There can be both a combination of both Indian as well as international scholars who have worked on this aspect. We have also tried in this context, but there can be a, what is a kind of not a scholarly one, but a very uh, public oriented lectures can be there, and it can be combined together and put it as a YouTube playlist. That can be really helpful. I mean, that is one way. Another way is that very short videos, right? I mean, 3 to 4 minute videos, not very long videos, because nowadays nobody listens to longer videos, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, nobody listens. Maybe 5 to 10 minute videos, very short, on different aspects of the Harappan civilization in a very simplistic language, that can help the public to connect. And I think the students needs to be really oriented. If I mean, if you are able to connect with the students, the student maybe some schools and colleges can be connected online. They can be told about the importance of this civilization, the context, the technology which was there in the Harappan times, and the deep connections what we have with the Harappan civilization. That will help a lot.
Thank you, sir. We have some more questions by audience. Uh, Dr. S. Ananthakrishnan has asked a question. Is there remains to prove there was a trade with the South, especially from Khizadi? That is the
Kiradi.
question.
He wants to know Kiradi, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes, sir.
we need to understand the time here. I don't know how people confuse
Mhm.
with cities of two different time periods. I mean, it's really intriguing. Harappan civilization belongs to 2600 to 1900 BCE, and Kiradi is, I mean, the earliest date goes back to 6th century BCE. So, how one fills the 1400 years? And I don't know. I mean, how people floated this idea, I don't know, but it is really disturbing to know. I mean, we need to understand that they are all very different time periods. One cannot say a Chalukya king traded with Mauryan Ashoka. I mean, can this question be relevant? I mean, so this is how the Harappans and the Kiradi, they are vastly separated from time and space.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question by Manuel Joseph. The could king out of flesh or vice versa be the reason of discovery of conch for sound? Some with tip missing have been found, perhaps in Harappa. That is the question.
You see, there is a clear-cut pattern of consumption of meat from the mollusk. I mean, what we see from the shell-midden sites is that this Terebralia palustris, which is mostly used for producing the sound, they were not consumed. The mollusks which were consumed, they are all smaller ones. They belong to a species known as Terebralia palustris and the telescopium, and they are all accustomed to mangrove environment. And I don't think they were sucking out the flesh, because it is very difficult to suck the flesh out of a conch. I mean, if anybody has tried, they can tell me. But they were breaking. I mean, what we see from the shell midden sites of Gujarat as well as Oman and Pakistan is that they were breaking the shell into splitting the shell into two halves, and they were removing the flesh from inside. Producing the sound might have come much later, right? I mean, we cannot definitely say when did this system came, because the Harappans particularly produced toy whistles. They were not. I mean, we don't have evidence of actually a conch, a terminala pyram with the apex broken to produce a sound. Instead, they removed the columella and to create a libation vessel, not an instrument to produce sound. But for producing sound, they produced a different terracotta toy, which is a whistle. So this phenomena might have come later.
Thank you so much, sir, for patiently answering all our questions. So we have come to the end of the session. If any other audience have questions, please put them in the chat box because we have come to the end.
There is one more question.
Yes, sir. Two more questions are there. Question is by Manali Momaya. Actually, Manali Momaya is the president of the History Enthusiast, as she is presently traveling to Mumbai, so she was not able to join us live. She is present, but I don't know whether she is able
Mhm.
to. Yeah, she has joined. Should I read the question, Manali, or will you read it? Manali, are you able to hear? You are on mute. Manali, you are on mute. No problem. I'll take out the question. The question is, sir, I visited the World Heritage Site of Dholavira a few months ago. The water management system particularly amazed me. My question, did the adverse geological features have any effect on the trade? That is the question asked by Manali.
I mean, for trade, we don't see any adverse effect on the trade, but they created this water management system because of the regional topography and regional geography. Because there is less rain when compared to the Sindh plains and maybe of other region, they had very less maybe rainfall. So that's why whatever rain was there, they were diverting them into these reservoirs. But they did not have any effect on the trade. A lot of trade was happening between Dholavira and other parts.
Yeah, Anidhi, that is a two-part question actually. The second part is missing from this.
Yes, yes, I'll post it. So the continuation of the same question is, at the time, and are there any parallels to the water management systems of Dholavira from other contemporary civilizations that indicate trade or cultural relationship? It is the continuation of the earlier question by Manali.
Water management was followed by other contemporary civilizations. In the context of Egypt, they were master water managers, right? I mean, they invented a system of water lifting system, right, from the Nile River at a lower level to a higher level, then into various irrigation canals. They reached far distances. We do have canal networks created by the Egyptians to transport the larger limestone blocks for the construction of the pyramid. They even constructed special water channels to transport the mortuary remains of the pharaohs. So, a lot of evidences are there in the Egyptian. In the Mesopotamian context, they have traced hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of irrigation canals, right? So they were constructing smaller dams and diverting the water to very interior places, and depending upon the geographical conditions, depending upon the local geology, people were making various efforts to manage the water resources. Here it is different, there it was different, there it was for a different purpose, but people were making all efforts. I mean, we do have evidence from different parts of the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for patiently answering all the questions. So we have come to the end of the session. So now I request our Honorable President Nandan Shastri ji to do the vote of thanks.
On behalf of the History Enthusiast Group and on my personal behalf, I am very thankful to today's distinguished speaker, Dr. V.N. Prabhakar, and his extensive work with the ASI has also made foremost experts on Harappan civilization. And recently he has done, I guess, lot of application of remote sensing too. And I hope when National Maritime Museum opens for the public, people will be more and more interested to know about today's topic also. I also thank the President Manali Momaya, Vice President Niti Katti uh, for today's event, and especially I thank the audience who took a lot of interest, and even question and answer session was quite interesting. Thanks to all.
Thank you so much, Nandan sir. Before ending this session, I just want to make a notice. Tomorrow at the same time, we have one more lecture by Prabhakar sir. I'll just share the details of that session. I hope you can see it on the screen.
Yes.
So tomorrow at 4:30 we have one more lecture by Dr. P.N. Prabhakar sir. The Sinoli findings, reevaluation of recent interpretations. That is the title on which he is going to talk. I request all the audience to join us again on the same time tomorrow, sharp at 4:30. Thank you so much. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay enthusiastic regarding history and archaeology. We are signing off here. Thank you.